Most women at some point in their lives find themselves caught in a frustrating loop. They swear off a certain type of man, only to find themselves months or even weeks later entangled with someone remarkably similar to the one they just escaped. It's a maddening cycle, and you might be asking yourself, why does this keep happening to me? The surface answer might be that you have a type, a preference for a certain look, a certain charm, or even a certain level of dysfunction. But the truth, as the great psychologist Carl Jung understood, often lies much deeper. It's not just about conscious preferences. It's about the unconscious forces that shape our choices, forces we often don't even realize are at play. Think of it like this. You're navigating a ship, but there's a powerful current pulling you in a direction you don't consciously want to go. This current represents your shadow self, the part of you containing all the qualities you reject or haven't fully integrated, the insecurities, the fears, the unmet needs. These hidden aspects of ourselves exert a powerful influence, often leading us to recreate familiar, even painful patterns. Why? Because, paradoxically, the familiar feels safe, even if it's harmful. Your shadow self seeks completion, and it often seeks it through relationships. You might unconsciously be drawn to people who embody the very qualities you disown in yourself. A woman who suppresses her anger, for example, might find herself repeatedly attracted to men who are volatile and explosive. She's not consciously seeking this out, but her repressed anger is seeking expression through her partner. It's not about blaming yourself, it's about understanding. Have you ever noticed how certain qualities in others irritate you disproportionately? That's often a clue pointing to something you haven't accepted in yourself. The qualities we judge most harshly are often the ones we secretly fear possessing. This isn't about finding the perfect partner either. The goal isn't to find someone without flaws, but to become more aware of your own internal landscape. As you embrace your wholeness, the less likely you are to project your unmet needs and repressed desires onto others. This journey of self-discovery, what Jung called individuation, is about integrating all aspects of yourself, even the ones you find uncomfortable. It's about becoming the captain of your own ship, consciously charting your course instead of being tossed about by unconscious currents. Abstinence in this context isn't just about refraining from relationships. It's about abstaining from the distractions and dramas that keep you from facing yourself. It's a conscious choice to turn inward, to explore the depths of your own being, and to understand the hidden forces that are shaping your life. It's about choosing yourself, your healing, and your growth above the temporary validation of another person. And in doing so, you begin to break free from the cycle of toxic relationships, not by finding a better partner, but by becoming a more whole and integrated version of yourself. Because the truth is, you can't truly love another until you truly love yourself. And that love begins with acknowledging and integrating your shadow. Now consider the role of validation. Have you ever felt like you needed someone else's approval to feel worthy? This is a common trap, and it's one that often leads women back into those familiar, unhealthy relationship patterns. It's like seeking external confirmation of your value, rather than cultivating it from within. Think about the men you've been drawn to in the past. Were they emotionally unavailable? Did they offer intermittent attention, leaving you constantly striving for their approval? This dynamic might feel familiar because it echoes past experiences, perhaps from childhood, where you had to earn love or attention. The unconscious mind seeks to recreate these patterns, hoping for a different outcome, a sense of resolution. But the truth is, external validation is a bottomless pit. It never truly satisfies because it doesn't address the underlying issue, a lack of self-worth. This is where the concept of self-sovereignty comes into play, a principle embraced by Stoic philosophers like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius. They believe that true freedom comes from mastering your own mind, from being unperturbed by external events and opinions. In the context of relationships, self-sovereignty means not needing another person to complete you or validate your existence. It means recognizing that your worth is inherent, not dependent on anyone else's approval. But how do you cultivate this self-sovereignty? It starts with challenging those ingrained beliefs about your worthiness. Where did these beliefs come from? Are they based on objective truths or on someone else's limitations and projections? Often these beliefs are rooted in childhood experiences, societal expectations, and past hurts. Abstinence in this sense becomes a powerful tool for reclaiming your self-sovereignty. It provides the space and clarity to examine these beliefs without the distractions and emotional roller coaster of a relationship. It's a period of intentional solitude, not as a punishment, but as an opportunity for deep self-reflection and healing. During this time, you can focus on building your own internal foundation of self-worth, independent of external validation. You can pursue your passions, cultivate your talents, and connect with your inner strength. Imagine a woman who always sought validation through romantic relationships. She jumps from one relationship to the next, always searching for someone to make her feel complete. Now imagine her choosing abstinence, not as a form of deprivation, but as a conscious decision to focus on her own growth. She starts taking classes she's always been interested in, reconnects with old friends, and learns to enjoy her own company. Slowly, she begins to realize that her happiness doesn't depend on having a partner. She discovers her own inherent worth, and she becomes less susceptible to the allure of emotionally unavailable men. This isn't about becoming completely independent or rejecting relationships altogether. It's about entering relationships from a place of wholeness, not from a place of neediness. It's about choosing a partner because you genuinely want to share your life with them, not because you need them to fill a void. And when you operate from this place of self-sovereignty, you're far more likely to attract healthy, fulfilling relationships into your life. Because like attracts like, when you radiate self-worth and inner peace, you attract people who resonate with those qualities. Let's delve into the fear of being alone. This fear is a powerful motivator, and it often underlies the cycle of returning to toxic relationships. For many women, the idea of being single, of facing life without a partner, feels terrifying. It's a fear rooted in societal conditioning, in the pressure to conform to traditional relationship norms, and in the belief that happiness is contingent upon having a romantic partner. Have you ever felt this pressure? The subtle or not so subtle questions from family and friends about your relationship status, the feeling of being different from your coupled up peers, the fear of dying alone? These societal anxieties can be incredibly powerful, driving you to settle for less than you deserve, simply to avoid the perceived stigma of being single. But what if being alone wasn't something to be feared, but something to be embraced? What if solitude could be a source of strength, creativity, and self-discovery? The truth is, many of history's greatest thinkers, artists, and leaders found inspiration and clarity in solitude. They used their time alone to cultivate their inner world, to connect with their deepest selves, and to develop their unique talents. Think of abstinence not as a sentence of loneliness, but as an invitation to explore the richness of your own inner landscape. It's an opportunity to cultivate a relationship with yourself, to learn to enjoy your own company, and to discover your own passions and interests. It's a chance to define your own happiness, independent of anyone else's expectations. The challenge, of course, is overcoming the initial discomfort and resistance. Spending time alone can be confronting. It forces you to face your fears, your insecurities, and your unmet needs. It can feel easier to distract yourself with a relationship, even a toxic one, than to confront these uncomfortable feelings. However, it's in facing these challenges that true growth occurs. Imagine a woman who is terrified of being alone. She's always been in a relationship, jumping from one to the next, never giving herself the chance to truly be single. She decides to try abstinence, and initially, she feels incredibly anxious and restless. She fills her days with distractions, social media, excessive work, anything to avoid being alone with her thoughts. But then, she begins to intentionally carve out time for solitude. She starts with small steps, a quiet walk in nature, a relaxing bath, a few minutes of meditation each day. Slowly, she begins to find peace in her own company. She rediscovers her love of painting, starts writing in a journal, and begins to connect with her inner voice. She realizes that being alone doesn't have to be lonely. It can be a time for creativity, self-reflection, and deep connection with herself. This isn't about becoming a recluse or isolating yourself from the world. It's about building a strong foundation of self-sufficiency and inner peace, so that you can enter relationships from a place of choice, not from a place of fear. It's about knowing that you are complete and whole, regardless of your relationship status. And when you operate from this place of inner strength, you're far less likely to settle for toxic relationships. because you know that you are worthy of love and respect and that you can create a fulfilling life on your own. The Stoics called this ataraxia, a state of tranquility, undisturbed by fear or desire. It's found within. Now, let's address the role of past hurts. Unresolved trauma and painful experiences can significantly influence your relationship choices, often leading you back to those familiar toxic patterns. These past wounds create unconscious scripts that play out in your relationships, perpetuating cycles of pain and disappointment. Think about your past relationships. Were there any recurring themes? Did you consistently find yourself in situations where you felt neglected, controlled, or emotionally abused? These patterns might be a reflection of unresolved trauma from your childhood or past relationships. For example, if you experienced emotional neglect as a child, you might unconsciously be drawn to partners who are emotionally unavailable, recreating the familiar dynamic. The unconscious mind seeks to resolve these past hurts, but often does so in unhealthy ways, repeating the same patterns in the hope of a different outcome. This isn't about blaming your past. It's about understanding how it's shaping your present. As Jung pointed out, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. To break free from these patterns, you need to become aware of the unconscious scripts that are driving your relationship choices. Abstinence in this context becomes a powerful tool for healing past hurts. It provides the space and clarity to process your emotions, to identify the root causes of your unhealthy patterns, and to develop healthier coping mechanisms. It's a time for deep self-reflection and emotional healing, without the distractions and emotional turmoil of a relationship. This process might involve seeking professional help, such as therapy or counseling. A therapist can provide a safe and supportive space to explore your past trauma, to process your emotions, and to develop strategies for healing. It might also involve engaging in self-care practices, such as journaling, meditation, or spending time in nature. The key is to create a nurturing environment where you can safely process your past hurts and begin to heal. Imagine a woman who experienced emotional abuse in a previous relationship. She's terrified of getting hurt again, but she also longs for connection. She finds herself drawn to men who are charming and charismatic, but who also exhibit red flags: controlling behavior, a lack of empathy, a tendency to gaslight. She knows these relationships are unhealthy, but she feels powerless to resist the pull. She decides to try abstinence, and she begins to work with a therapist to process her past trauma. She learns to identify the red flags early on, and she develops strategies for setting boundaries and protecting herself from emotional abuse. She starts to realize that she deserves to be treated with respect and kindness, and that she doesn't have to settle for less. As she heals from her past trauma, she becomes less susceptible to the allure of toxic relationships. She starts to attract healthier partners, people who are genuinely kind, empathetic, and respectful. She enters relationships from a place of strength and self-awareness, knowing her worth and refusing to tolerate abuse. This isn't about erasing your past. It's about integrating it into your present so that it no longer controls your future. It's about transforming your pain into power and using your experiences to create a more fulfilling and meaningful life. It's about realizing that healing isn't about forgetting, but about remembering differently. It's about rewriting your story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Finally, consider the power of embracing your inner masculine and feminine energies. Jung referred to these as the animus, the unconscious masculine side of a woman's psyche, and the anima, the unconscious feminine side of a man's psyche. Understanding and integrating these energies can lead to greater self-awareness, balance, and healthier relationships. In many women, the animus is underdeveloped or suppressed. This can manifest as a lack of assertiveness, difficulty setting boundaries, and a tendency to defer to others, particularly men. A woman with an unintegrated animus might struggle to express her opinions, pursue her ambitions, or stand up for herself in relationships. She might unconsciously seek out partners who are dominant and controlling, reinforcing her own passivity. On the other hand, some women over-identify with their animus, becoming overly aggressive, competitive, and emotionally detached. This can lead to a rejection of their feminine qualities, such as vulnerability, empathy, and intuition. A woman with an overdeveloped animus might struggle to connect with others on an emotional level, and she might find it difficult to form intimate relationships. The key is to find a balance between these two energies. To embrace your inner masculine energy means developing assertiveness, confidence, and the ability to set boundaries. It means pursuing your goals with determination and standing up for what you believe in. It also means embracing your inner feminine energy, which involves cultivating empathy, intuition, and emotional intelligence. It means connecting with your vulnerability and allowing yourself to be open and receptive to love and connection. Abstinence provides the space and opportunity to explore and integrate these energies. It's a time to connect with your inner strength and develop your assertiveness, without the pressure of a relationship. It's also a time to cultivate your empathy and intuition, and to connect with your emotions on a deeper level. Imagine a woman who always struggled to assert herself in relationships. She constantly put her partner's needs before her own, and she often felt taken advantage of. She decides to try abstinence, and she begins to focus on developing her inner masculine energy. She takes a self-defense class, starts speaking up in meetings at work, and learns to say no to things she doesn't want to do. She also begins to connect with her inner feminine energy, practicing self-compassion and allowing herself to be vulnerable. As she integrates these energies, she becomes more balanced and self-assured. She attracts partners who are respectful and supportive, and she's able to maintain healthy boundaries in her relationships. She no longer feels the need to defer to others, and she's able to express her needs and desires with confidence. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about embracing all aspects of yourself, both masculine and feminine, and finding a balance that feels authentic and empowering. It's about understanding that true strength lies not in suppressing your emotions, but in embracing them. And by integrating these energies, you can create healthier, more fulfilling relationships built on mutual respect, equality, and genuine connection. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.